Of all the interviews that I've done so far, I have not interviewed someone who had so many challenges in his life and has been so incredibly resilient. This gentleman you're going to meet today, his name is Eugene Brooks. He had an incredibly hard youth. He's biracial, growing up in the 1960s. He was sexually abused. Later in life, he became addicted to drugs. He even dealt drugs. He went into the military. After the military, he got back into drugs, went to jail. He is a cancer survivor, and that's putting it lightly. At another point, he needed a liver transplant. He was told at the last minute he was not going to get it because he was no longer a good candidate, again thinking his life was going to end. And on top of all of that, he's an incredible business owner, absolutely successful, has a record label, he has several degrees from college, he is an author, and he is retired at the age of 56. Today he's 58, and I'm telling you, this guy is just getting started. This is just an incredible video. If you've ever thought that you were up against a hard point in your life and you thought there was no turning around or no getting over, you need to watch this interview. Absolutely fantastic. Enjoy.
And I had been sexually abused. I was abused by my brother, my older brother, which I tried to bring up in the house, but nobody wanted to discuss that. It was too difficult of a topic. And my mom didn't want to address it because she was trying to do all she could to keep the family together. So my mom and dad, eventually they got married. So the day they got married, he put us in the car, he took us home, and then he went out that night by himself and partied. Wow. On the day that my mom and dad got married.
Wow.
That's how cold he was.
You had mentioned before, would you mind talking about what your dad did? Because that's another whole dynamic, what he did to make money at this point. You mentioned in the book.
Yes. So my father had the body shop. Like I said, he was a hustler.
Yeah.
He was going to get money. He was going to make money. So he had the body shop, and then he also had a couple of, well, in those days we called them hen houses, but they're whorehouses.
Yeah.
Private high schools, public high schools.
Well, why did you get kicked out?
Not going to class, getting in fights, but mostly just not getting in class because I was getting high at that time.
And you went in the military because your dad...
I got in trouble.
Okay. I like the way you say trouble because I know part of the story. People need to hear this because, again, where you are today and what you've been through,
right.
that's the huge resilience. You say trouble. Explain what that means.
And the sergeant looked at me and said, well, I think you made a mistake. I said, no, I'm half black and half white, so I'm going to choose to be white today. And he looked at me, he said, son, if we were looking for a white Eugene Brooks, do you think we'd find you in the battlefield?
It's a good point.
The last day of tech school, that night before, I'm going to Combs, so I was like, I'm going to take some drugs home with me. And I bought like 5 pounds of weed and 142 hits.
Wait a minute. This is in the military?
Yeah.
You're able to buy weed somewhere around base or whatever?
Yeah, I was in Denver, Colorado. So I couldn't see all the times that God had shielded me and protected me. And I didn't know at that time when that man gave me an honorable discharge how profound that would end up being in my life. So 18, 19, 20 years old, making 20, 30,000 a week, driving around in a new 911 convertible.
A week?
A week. I got busted again. And again, I'm a man, so I didn't tell nobody, took the charge. Unlike kids today, they'll let their mother, their grandmothers put up bail money for their house.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
They'll do all that shit. If you do it, you stand up like a man and take your charge. These kids nowadays, a lot of them, getting shot by the police and all that. There needs to be a class and teach them. You got a warrant out for your arrest? You did that? Pull over, get out the car, get arrested, and stand up like a man and take your charge. So I'm in law school. Second day of law school, They told everybody stand in line. You have to get fingerprinted for your intent to study law. Fuck, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
That's how law school is. Law school is like a jealous woman.
Explain
It
that.
wants a lot of damn time. You have to give it time.
That's great. I didn't say it. He did.
My work ethic and my drive I got from that man. You wasn't gonna fucking stop me. Guaranteed. You wasn't gonna outwork me. You just tell me how much I need to work to get to a certain goal, and I'll match that. He gave that to me. God gave that to me. And people gonna think I'm crazy. I get it. All I can tell you is what has happened to me in my life. That's it.
Okay.
And I know how God works in my life. Do you want help? I'm like, yeah, if you can. Took me to a detox center. And you would think I would start doing the right thing.
Yeah. And this is just a random guy. You didn't know who this guy
Didn't know who he was. Took me to a detox center. Of course, I get busted in the detox center for being in the shower with two women. Anyway, don't worry about that part.
Yeah,
I couldn't do right.
Okay. How many times were you diagnosed with cancer?
3 times.
And one of the times was, what was your diagnosis?
The last time I had cancer, they told me it was terminal, and they gave me 6 months to live. At this time, I had started trusting God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Start trusting God. And so I said, okay. I learned how through meditation to turn that thing off between my left ear and my right ear. That was my enemy.
Yeah. It's a lot of people's enemy.
But the only way that you can see them is if you have to live outside your head. You have to be open. You have to have your eyes open. Because if you got a bunch of shit going on in your head, the messages will just go by. Yes. And I went in there and I sat down on the toilet and I started crying. And it was at that moment that I realized I took this day. It was at that moment that I realized I did all right. As a man.
Yeah. Yeah.